you periodically need to determine what type of parking you have and where you're going to need it, and the parking authority now has an opportunity to start looking at that and proactively dealing with it. The central business district is the area that we would concentrate on, and any currently metered areas. You know, I think downtowns in general are challenged by the perception of the lack of parking spaces. I think that parking in downtown Pottsville is fairly convenient. I know when I go look for parking spaces, do I find the one right in front of the store I want to go to? No, but I do find one very close to the store that I want to go to. So I think the difference is when you go to a mall, you see hundreds of open spaces and you know you're parking in one, and so like it's the perception that parking's free and easy at a mall parking lot. And in downtowns, though there are parking spaces, it's not the majority of spaces that are available, even though there are spaces available. So I think it's much more of a perception than an actuality, I think, and combating that, any downtown has to deal with that issue.
Some business owners downtown think private parking lots are an answer. As we mentioned, Town Drugs is putting in a parking lot downtown. Is that a good idea for some, you think?
You know, I mean, there are some private parking lots in the downtown area. I think what you're going to find, though, is they're not easy to put in. I mean, if you don't have one now, the likelihood of a business getting one is fairly slim, because you're landlocked, you're surrounded by buildings, and so you can't just create a parking lot in the middle of a downtown. I mean, it does present hurdles there. So I think businesses look for parking for their customers, and whether that be in currently existing private lots or currently existing public lots, they just need to determine where it is best for their customers to go.
I was also talking to the gentleman who gives out the tickets, Mr. Boyd, who's a part-time employee, and he said the authority had bumped up his hours from 5 hours a day to 7 as of this week. Is there a reason why? I mean, one thing I did notice, I got some stats on the number of tickets given out, and it seems like we gave out more last year than the year before, and I think that's as a result of the more hours you kind of give, the more time he has to work the street, hence the more tickets we give out. But I'm just curious as to why he got more.
Yeah, but his hours between last year and the year before were the same.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's not that it's bumped up in ticketing for that particular purpose. I mean, I think sometimes you just go, sometimes it just happens that way.
According to Pottsville Police, Mr. Boyd gave out 9,100 tickets in 2007 and 11,788 tickets in 2008. What do you attribute to the change in?
He's doing a good job.
Yeah, that's his job. That's his job. That's all he does all day is write tickets. I mean,
people not slugging the meters.
Yeah, you know.
That's true too. Why did the authority change his hours from 5 to 7 per week? Is there a reason why?
I think so that, I mean, our meters are patrolled, and they're meant to be patrolled from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. And so what we look at doing is making sure that Don's hours, even if they don't expand the full 8-hour day, that at least it's flexed around so that for instance, if he would stop at 2 o'clock every day, people wouldn't just get the notion that after 2 o'clock you could clot up specific metered sections. I mean, the reason for meters being there is so that parking turns over, so that people who are in very congested parking areas don't park there all day. So when you're on the 100 block of Market Street and you work in that section, that you're not parked on street all day long. Like, you really have to park in a long-term parking lot so that there is available spaces for customers who are coming to that area. And so enforcement of meters becomes very instrumental in making sure that the reasons for meters being there actually becomes a reality, I guess is what I'm saying, is that if we don't enforce between 3 and 5, then people park there between 3 and 5 without plugging the meter, for one, which is negligible, but secondly, just simply park there so that there's not available parking for customers who want to go there.
And I wanted to ask you guys, when you do this parking study, are there any particular questions off the top of your head you're hoping to have answered, or things you're curious about off the top of your head? Anybody? With a parking study, is there anything you're curious about?
I think the goal, the mission is it convenient? Is it safe? Is it clean? And we want to, find out where Is it more Center Street, that we need more parking, or South Center? That's the purpose of the study, and not just for 2009, 2010, but what's going to happen 2015, 2020 down the road.
That's a good point. 1 hour free spaces. I had a person who made a comment about them. One business person downtown thought they should be bumped up to 2 hour free spaces because at her business, her clients are usually in her shop like between like an hour and a half to like an hour 45 minutes. It's never quite 2 hours. It's never. It's more than an hour.
The 1 hour on Center Street parking is $25 ticket. So we actually have lost clients because clients are not in here any pretty much shorter than an hour or longer than 2 hours, and so they walk out and there's a $25 parking ticket. They don't want to return. So when I called Padco about it, they told me to tell them to park in Arch Street, which is a meter 24-hour parking lot. And I don't think that's very convenient when there's 6 spaces in front of my salon, our salon, and they have to be afraid of a ticket. So we have to pay those tickets for them so that they can continue doing business here. Really only an hour parking on Center Street isn't conducive to our clientele. It's more for, if you want to say, the banks or for the pawn shops.
Is that something you might consider?
Probably not. I mean, I don't want to speak for the board because I don't think that anyone's brought that to our attention, but I do want to say this, and what automatically comes to my mind is, yes, there are 1 hour spaces on Center Street. However, there are very convenient pockets of long-term parking in the Arch Street lot, the Capitol lot, the Mahintunga lot. So if people plan to be there for 2 hours, then they should go to parking places where they can park for 2 hours. Because the 1 hour spaces, of course, are for people who plan to just stop in a store, go get something, and then go someplace else. So like it becomes a real convenience issue, which is why you want to have that type of parking right on the central business district. And you also take, for example, the meters right on the 100 block of Market Street are 1 hour meters. I mean, the more central the location, the shorter the parking tends to be. Although, given that, like I said, we do buffer that with long-term parking zones and long-term parking areas that are conveniently located at various intervals throughout that central business district.
Okay.